Big bun me. Give the teacher them raise. Big bun me. I see corruption face. Big bun me. Mash down the people them out. Big bun me. Every day appear arms out. Big bun me. Appear money them a thief. Big bun me. And them a sell out the beach. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't for me again. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't for me again. For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The 100 promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth and rap and they down in our fever. Member bowl honey and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and the pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start that thief when them sell. Big bun me. Or they treat the market man. Big bun me. Or them a treat the cat man. Big bun me. Or they treat the peanut man. Big bun me. Or them a treat the dirt man. Big bun me. Or them a treat the son man. Big bun me. Or them a treat policeman. Big bun me. Or them a treat soldier man. Big bun me. Or them a treat everyone. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't for me again. Can't for me again. You can't.
Well, it is I, Bad Bass Alice here, representing on behalf of Dancehall. This is the station of all time, Global TV, Brothers of all time, Alice in a rep, yeah, General of all time. Master with me say you, but the people them love you bad. Fully informative, salute, like they have to live.
Stibbidim day, stibbidim day, stibbidim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no keep. And some informer friend we love like we in Global. Bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global. We not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek, come here represent for we in Global TV. Check it.
Good evening, another Monday evening, and welcome to Global TV. Thank you for joining us. I apologize for not hosting today's show, but I was quite all over the place and unsettled. My camera is looking a bit better, not still quite happy, but looking a bit better. Good evening. How are you doing? Thank you all for joining us. This is your station, Global TV, and it is your program, The People's Point of View. Good evening and welcome to those on TikTok, to those on the Twitch, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you all for joining us. Over TikTok, please keep tapping up the screen, please. As you enter, keep tapping up the screen. While you're here, keep tapping up the screen and give us some likes and some share, please. Good evening to the Criminal Commissioner. I want to say good evening to everyone on the live. Good evening to Debbie Jervis. Good evening, Sunshine. Good evening, Beaton Teach. Amazing Grace. Good evening. Good evening, my cousin Jamie Too Cool. Good evening, Kate M. Good evening, Lilith Foster. Good evening, Arlene Forrest. Good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome, Head Teacher K. How are you? Good evening, Angela Costley. Good evening. Who else is here? Ada James, good evening, Sunshine, Jamaica Foodie. Who else? Angela 48349. Good evening, Prof. Gorgeous Lady. Good evening, Joan Brown. Good evening and welcome. Good evening to everyone on the live. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate your support. If you live anywhere in the UK, you know yesterday we were severely battered. VM, good evening and welcome. severely battered by wind and rain, but more so the wind. It was quite windy today, but nothing as dangerous as yesterday. Because if you remember, I told you yesterday, for me, there was a health warning outside. Wind will pick you up if you venture outside. So therefore, I couldn't venture outside yesterday. I managed to get out there today. The wind was still mad, but not as dangerous as it was. Coping up with it and all that, but our madness in our country continues. It really does. But anybody see Jamaican call us? I look like a him and the others. Orlando Terry Long. I talk to. Hear what Orlando Terry Long is saying. Jamaicans national living overseas are being encouraged to take advantage of the sustained growth in the economy by investing in the country. Minister of Watsita Radharans in the state, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, along the Terry Long, in making a call, said the country in experiencing unprecedented growth. Them always a push the narrative they don't with short. And unprecedented growth and development. And it is a great place to make some money. Of course, for people like FSL and all of them people there, and for people like Andrew Holness and him family and him friends and the Vaz family and all of those people, for them, yeah, Jamaica is a place to make money. So if we not see Carlos, tell Carlos it's more than likely that Terry Long is talking to everybody who was at the call to action protests. But as usual, politicians generally treat us like the fools we behave, the fools they think we are, and the fools they take us for. So Terry Long can tell we about the great economic success of our country when young people are leaving the country in an unconventional manner by the drove. Or people are trying to leave Jamaica by all means via the sea route and Mexican border. And Terry Long is telling us how, Chanel Williams, good evening and welcome, how well the country is thriving. And after them thief off so much of poor people money at home, and after we're seeking redress for the stealing, the corruption, the embezzlement, the all sort of what they do to bring our economy and our country to its knees, Terry Long is telling us, shut up and carry on a hard working, working a coal, work night and day. Sometimes some of us have to work 3-4 jobs. Come invest, make we pocket it and run off to St. Lucia with it and have private and blind trust for our children and all sorts of company for our children, and our children can become director of company by the time they reach majority age. A fool on a take with a good fool. Because for the fool, on know that tiptoe around with the foolness. But because I walk so hard and I thump on a foot, while I not take with a fool, then a good fool on a take with her. Yes, them a call for So we are foreign come invest for them thief more. For the wife sit down and scrape with money in the office of the prime minister. Then his wife sit down one side and chickle who forget this and who forget that. Rodney Reed, good evening and welcome. Chickle who forget this and who forget that. Then she send off the rest to St. Lucia to continue perk up their ill-gotten wealth where them can't support the wealth where them submit on paper. Them can't show the sources where them fund come from. If you submit so much property development, so much company, so yacht there, so helicopter there, so mansion here, so land thief there, so in a court for it, all sorts, you name it. But the lie and the mischief continue from with politician. But yes, Terry Langsa, car, honor, money, come. Somebody then go call DK Duncan daughter. Patricia Duncan Sutherland. I was meant to attack this woman from the other night. But I really forget. And tonight, I will not let Patricia Duncan Sutherland, the female Pernell Charles, they get there because of the daddy draw me behind him, and successful though I be, the daddy draw me behind him type of politics, the hereditary politics, the corrupt power play of politics. I was in the ruling class, so let me draw my children in the ruling class with me. And when you're in the ruling class, like Patricia Duncan Sutherland wants to get into and wants to stay into, then a lot of the time you have to speak utter gibberish.
Another member is charged with that murder, that it would cause a lot of pain and hurt and confusion in the minds of the family. Just like I am very concerned about the children, I know we have to carry this as news, and I know we have to comment on it, but every day that those boys wake up and see this in the newspaper makes it that much harder for them to heal. In recent times, we've had quite a few reports of killing of women and children and rape of children, etc. And it is very disturbing where our society generally is going. We do not know who murdered Melissa. We are very clear. The police have said, based on the fact that there were gunshots, she was murdered. We know that they have picked up Joylan as a suspect, but we can't convict anybody before the conviction is done, right? But we know that this is a problem that we have in our country, and we have to address it, have to work it out, because the violence against women, I believe, is escalating.
Good evening, Douglas Allen. Good evening, always observing. Who else has arrived? But good, Nicola Walker Rodin. Good evening and welcome. The daughter of DK Duncan. The daughter of DK Duncan. Quite a questionable, quite a politician when I was growing up in the 80s, with a questionable character. The DK Duncan, who him and Bruce Gold battle over ideology between 1972 to leading up to the 1980 election, the bloodbaths by both parties, but mainly instituted by the Jamaica Labour Party and their alignment with the CIA to destabilize the country from its alignment with communism. But on the People's National Party side, D.K. Duncan, the name D.K. Duncan, was quite a fair character. But we're not going to assassinate your father character tonight. Because instead, the corrupt system we run, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, we never get to investigate, process, or prosecute your father for any of the violence, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, your father was involved in leading up to the 1980 election. But let me help you, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, to rather speak diplomatically and not foolishly. Because when you said, we don't know we don't know who killed Mrs. Silvera, it's quite true, one could say, because none of us are there. We don't know who killed her. But let me tell you, in this present case, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, how you should be phrasing your argument is that we're not going to go beyond the court and start passing judgment until we get a conviction. But as it is at the moment, with what the police are telling us that they have, everything is pointing to Joylan Silvera, the suspect. But we will wait for a conviction from the court. But to just blatantly come out and say, we don't know who killed Melissa. No, you ought to say, Patricia Duncan Sutherland, everything at the moment is pointing in the direction that it is a highly possibility that he was killed by her husband. The police think so based on the evidence. Forensics, telecommunications. If Patricia Duncan Sutherland, if you don't think it's Joylan Silvera, who had access to Joylan Silvera's gun? Who got into Joylan Silvera's house without his knowledge? Why Joylan Silvera renovated the room almost in its entirety? Why Joylan Silvera told us his wife died peacefully next to him? And then the moment the pathologist didn't go on with it, he came back and told us, I wasn't at home. Who broke into Joylan Silvera's house? Patricia Duncan Sutherland. Who else do you think it might be if it's not Joylan Silvera? Patricia Matthews, good evening and welcome. Good evening. Who else do you think it might be, Patricia Duncan Sutherland? Who else is the evidence, circumstantially, materially, forensics the police say they have? Who else is it pointing to for you to be looking in the cloud somewhere for whoever might have murdered Melissa Silvera? Rather than swailing around in public with useless gibberish, all of you in the People's National Party, it takes one simple thing. One simple thing. Put out a public statement from Mark Golding as president. I was misled by Joylan Silvera to lie to the public. I was misled by Joylan Silvera to lie to the public. Now we know the situation is different. I wish to unequivocally distance myself, distance the People's National Party from Joylan Silvera and allow justice to take its course. Dumb Mark Golding, that's all it takes. That's all it takes, Mark Golding. Have you said that? Have you said that from around the 15th, 16th of December, when we realized Mrs. Silvera was murdered, we would have never called your name, or we wouldn't be continuously drugging you about this whole issue, because you would have been a man, stand up as a person who wants to lead our country. Nicole Gray, good evening. As a man who wants to, Nicole, I do believe you, but I'm just giving Mark Golden the benefit of the doubt. But I wholly believe what you said. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Had Mark Golden on the 15th, 16th of December, I think when the postmortem results became public, if Mark Golden seriously respected this nation, and Mark Golden have an ambition to lead this nation, and not just lead it, to lead it with integrity, Mark Golden would have sought to clarify such a debacle unfolding in public, where he was misled by Joylan Silvera to protect his cover-up by explaining to the nation that Melissa Silvera died peacefully in her sleep. The result of the postmortem showed us not so. Immediately that happened, and Joylan Silvera started changing his statement, Mark Golden should have made the political, sensible choice, which to date, none of them haven't done. All of them in the People's National Party, whether it be Patricia Duncan Sutherland, the president of the People's National Party Women's Movement, Denise Daly, Natalia, good evening and welcome. Denise Daly, the Shadow Minister of Gender, Disability and Inclusion, all of them are talking around the issue. Stacey, good evening and welcome. All of them are talking around the issue rather than confronting the issue head on. But I feel the Jamaica Labour Party is going to have a field day. As sad as the situation is, the Jamaica Labour Party in the next few weeks is going to have a field day with Mark Golden, because Mark Golden thinks he doesn't have to speak to this nation. Mark Golden don't think he has the duty to come and give us clarity on very important issues of trust, issues of credibility and integrity. He shouldn't think he's going to get away just like that with us, just allowing them. You see what makes this situation all more that we should stand up and war with them, proverbially. Melissa Silvera, as we perceived it, is one of them. The Color Clan. Colin Humphreys, good evening. She's in what we call high color class in Jamaica. Uptown, educated woman, financially okay woman, especially since the death of her mother and the assets she would have gained from her mother's passing. Melissa Silvera is one of them from Uptown. So we think they were going to stand up to Melissa Silvera or protect Melissa Silvera, look out for justice, demand for justice, stand up for justice for Melissa Silvera. But rather, they are cheating on her just like they cheat us in the ghetto and us in the rural, forgotten Jamaica. Because what? It is a male-dominated, male-run both clubs of both sides of the coin society. So when one of the dominant male in our society commit a crime, then everybody else is expected to fall in line. Whoever that crime is committed against, even if it's one of their women from the upper echelons of society, from the colorism, classism of society, they're not protecting her. We thought they would have protected her, but it's one of the biggest disgraceful cover-up of our time. It's the first time in our history one of our politicians, former though be, is being charged with the murder of his wife, or been charged with murder. This is a historic crime in the political spheres of our country. Can you see the widening of the cover-up? But Fitzbailey, we're never going to done with this Silvera issue, because Fitzbailey, the covering up of the crime, is bigger than the crime. The covering up Fitzbailey of the crime is bigger than the crime. None of these crimes are being investigated because Pastor Fitzbailey have no interest in solving crime in our country, because it is said when Fitzbailey was at the organized crime unit, Fitzbailey used to demand his share of the loot, his share of the confiscated drug bus before whatever they're going to stash into the coffers. That same dollar in the coffers that you see Nigel Clark that Nigel Clark is using to tell you all that them find some money somewhere and them are going to take it, get SSL, for do all sort of nonsense. But schools for disabled children have to be closed. Schools for disabled children have to be closed because the government don't have enough money. Mr. them also, Nigel, I tell them we have to be careful about election overspending, but never mind the food. This is the other crazy idea I want to just highlight. 1,000 goat imported to boost local stock. You see, everybody I make money off of. I would Jamaica though. Jamaica run out a ram goat. Good evening, Paula Simmet. Good evening and welcome. Jamaica run out a ram goat that Clyde Green couldn't have contacted Damian Crawford, who knows so well about the livestock industry. You couldn't come up with an idea in a Jamaica for the goat breeding in our country to boost the local stock. But you're going to use with money to spend a foreign. How much embezzlement involved because we know say no Jamaican politician no arrange no contract with embezzlement and kickback and misappropriation don't get involved in. What sort of stupidness is this coming from the Ministry of Agriculture? When Ministry of Agriculture take with money, buy foreign goat. Listen, sometimes when you think about these people, they drive you crazy because all them are what can do is stuff with foreign things. Foreign this from China, foreign this. Which party I buy the goat from, sir? The article that I can go read it, come in never even top to see which party I go buy the goat them from. I mean, across Jamaica, refugee goat in a style, no, me blows and skirt. A teacher might make me cuss bad word for life. No, sir. Huh? No, tell me if this isn't a crazy idea. Come on now, Fly Green. We expected better from you. Contact Damian Crawford. Get some idea from Damian Crawford, Fly Green. For God's sake, this wholeness regime is going haywire with silly, useless, run out of ideas. Let's try this and see if it works. Let's make it up as we go along. You see, the reason why we have never had a crime plan for the 8 years they've been there. You see why for the 8 years they've been there, a simple thing as legislating and a general election date, a fixed general election date, they never able to achieve, but continue just using the country's money to do silly things. I guarantee this guy, if him buy 10 ram goat, or if him buy 100 ram goat from across the country, and 100 yogurt from across the country, and decide said Jamaica I go run a goat breeding farm, and from this year farm here, we're going to run this farm for 5-10 years without selling or killing a goat off this farm, while the population continue to grow theirs as well. We soon have imported politicians in Jamaica, and that we don't have imported yet. You see, when the Chinese, Joya, hello. You see, when the Chinese fully take over our country, and you under that system where you realize you're going to either have to submit to the will of the devil, or you're going to have to wake up and fight when it's probably too late. Jamaicans just sit down and just gobble up everything politicians bring them. Imported goats, I kid you not. Imported goat. This is one of them that's something where me as well. Or education system. Sandra Levy, good evening and welcome. Or education system, rather than develop our education for the 21st century and beyond, introduce modern day learning in our education system. All our government continue to do, wholeness a plan to do a new resort on the West Coast. All our government is interested in doing is training us to become industrious slaves. all our government is interested in doing, and not just Andrew Holness, successive government. But when we are talking about the current state of our country, the current government is under a duty to act. The buck stop with them. All we have been constantly training our people to do is to become industrial slaves. Industrial slaves. Because a lot of these vocational, technical and vocational training, a lot of them is geared at the tourism sector. A lot of them is geared at the tourism sector. The industry of industrious slavery, you all call it the tourism sector, but the industry of industrious slavery is what these vocational training are geared to. What about the sciences? What about the further mathematics and all the different type of science that we need to do? Coding, software developing, cyber security, and all of these things. But they regularly continue to train us to become slaves to those who enslave us. We must learn to cook. We must learn to be good stewards in hotel. We must learn to be good barmen. We must learn to be good this or good that. What we are being geared for, they are continuously training us to be paid slaves. They're paying us to be paid slaves, to look after the hierarchies of the West, to look after the so-called privileged or feel privileged lot of the West. This is what our politicians are training us for. They're not training us to become the superpower. They are not training us to become the superpower that the Miami Herald, in their wholeness regime supporting writing, that we saw them put out last year. We are in a situation where we don't know if we're going or coming. We certainly know that our politicians are coming. We don't know if we are going or coming, because our country, when it's not going backwards, it's going stagnant. I forget to find the cover of the copy of this book, but there's a book that says How to Lie with Statistics. David something another, I think the writer is, but I'll put it up for you tomorrow. How to Lie with Statistics. And more, we see where the Wholeness regime regularly deployed statistics on us to continue to confuse us, to distract us, to tell us what he wants us to believe, you see. But there's a book called How to Lie with Statistics. You can type it in yourself, in your Google, How to Lie with Statistics. Numbers is what they use to lie to us. It's what they use to control us. So when you see them come out and tell us, this was 40% then, but because it's 43% this time, this year, it has fallen. You notice because the local election is coming up. Because the Prime Minister will want to, on his election campaign, go around and tell us how much him and the JCF and that sleeping criminal is doing about crime. On notice, I mean, and if I may think too deep, ever since January coming, there's a raft of gun, bullet, ammunition, this and that, just a find all about yes or this one, this so. Is it really to boost how the argument of how we're fighting crime coming this local government election? One have to really ask, because the prime minister every time him open his mouth, he tried to convince us that crime is down. If he's not trying to convince us that crime is down, then what the prime minister regularly do, what the prime minister regularly does, rather, is tell us, if it weren't because of the violence, then we wouldn't have any crime. We wouldn't have a crime problem. Put the violence aside. We really don't have a crime problem. So scamming is not a crime. Corruption is not a crime. You know what I mean? All of them something they're stealing, embezzlement. None of them something of crime. Just the violence. He is just focused on the violence. So nothing else. If him can fool we about the figure when it comes to do with violence, then Jamaica is pretty much a crime-free country, is what our prime minister would have us believe. That's why I know say these people take with a fool. It's not just that we act fool by allowing them to get away with the things they regularly get away with, but they really think we are fools. What is this now? Yes, this continues on the looting of the National Housing Trust money by the Prime Minister, which is one of the office he has dropped into the office of the Prime Minister because of what? There is a lot of money swimming around. It's just swimming around. It's just want to poke you in the eyes. There's so much money swimming around at the National Housing Trust. So, of course, the Prime Minister is going to continue to use your money to buy political credibility across the country. You notice the whole of last year onwards, him just a walk and a dash with house. Of course, he knows constitutionally he's backed into a general election. Not a general, a local election next month. Let's see how the vote buying and the vote paying for continues. But I just want to say to Shia, what exactly is your problem? Because all of a sudden, from Silvera arrested. All right, I know some dunce. So when me dunce, we just have to ask dunce question. Because we know the Jamaica police them dunce. Because a whole man just promote himself, bring himself into the force, promote himself at all different sort of level, and then for how much years before JCF realize he's not one of their employees. Yesterday she put up a letter. When a date not upon you, I'm telling her, say, anyway you see a letter from a lawyer without a date, it's from a dunce lawyer. If you get a letter from your lawyer, if you receive a letter from your attorney, and that letter have no date on it, that attorney and Peter Champagne was sitting in the same seat at school. I don't know what is her problem. No, she put up this today, but the questions I want to ask, because she dumb and we know say Jamaica police dumb. But on the form here it says, Police Station, CTAC, is it a branch? Is it a branch that is called CTAC or one police station named CTAC? Because remember, you know, we have mayor with done Saddam when it comes to counting, and you have councillor with done Saddam when it comes to reading. But I guarantee you, if I apply for one of their political positions, whether it be at central or the local government level, or even one of their positions in the civil service, if me now go arrange for the embezzlement to go through my hand, then I may not get that job. I may not get that job, just like how Morris have to go and Stephen have to go, because Darrell Vaz and Nesta Morgan want a counselor who is prepared to swindle the public purse in awarding contracts out of your local government budget. They're all crooks. So I don't know why this year 1 year, all of a sudden, the whole Silvera story, the page which she claims to not belong to her and an affair, and it had do all sort of malarkeys to her. From the 15th of December, I'm almost certain it was around the 15th that the postmortem came out. You see her latest statement 3 hours ago. No, I haven't seen. I have listened. The woman hand just a chimble so head teacher for him sissy. Silvera get arrested. Her hand just a chimble so. So that's why you see these unfinished, horrible written things. She just a push them out. She just a push them out. So as if who bloody cares? You think you're gonna stop a person like me from calling your name? Did you not see your name out in the public from mid-December to come out and disassociate yourself from that page? From mid-December, you see no reason. Over a month, and you see no reason to disassociate your wormy mango because the amount of hole we have bore up in the cover-up now. You are the wormy mango of the cover-up, because when you say wormy mango, full of hole. And there's bare hole all over this cover-up now. So the fact where you run with your hand and shake, whether it be you the liar or the police are write them something there, they are incomplete, my dear. They are incomplete. A lawyer from a letter without a date. Huh? A lawyer from a letter from a lawyer without a date. Speak to what row he was sitting at in law school. What is wrong with these people? Ton of flavor, good evening and welcome. Good evening. I always am going to continue to say this. Them people are take with a fool. And not only that, them take with a fool. We continue to act the fool. We continue to allow them to get away with too much, especially with the resources and the finances of our country. We don't push back on anything. We push back on nothing at all. Everything we think, I saw it go. It is why Colonel Charles could hand over the reign to his son. It is why DK Duncan tried to push his children on us as well. It is why we end up with the vases, the hereditary politics. The politics of one set of family and one set of friendship must rule our country. The system of politics we have, where it's a male club, a man's club, and you have to be beholden to their misogyny as a woman to be a part of their club. Therefore, you have women like Patricia Duncan Sutherland and Angela Brownberg and all the other women, Denise Daly and all of them in the PNP, cannot stand up on this matter and be a woman. Because while Golden is still folding up on the Silvera, all of you have to fold up with Golden on the Silvera. But don't think that we are going to let Golden escape any criticism over here because Andrew Holness is a tyrant and we want to get rid of a tyrant. Golden is not trustworthy. Not on this issue. Golden has shown us that he has no integrity and no credibility. Golden is not fit to lead our country. If Golden cannot speak on an issue of murder, if Golden cannot disassociate himself from an issue of murder, he has no credibility to lead our country. Because he might go silent for murder. Him now go give away a crime plan. If you're silent for murder and corruption, you're not going to give us a crime plan. But the game continues. Because and just still a walk and give away. Hey, you stay there. And your wholeness still a walk and give away things. When I remember the word last night from the mayor, not from the mayor, the councillor. Relizent. You remember the word relizent? Who remember the word relizent? Huh? And you continue to walk and give it. Of course, I know the Portmore Park would have been under construction some time ago. But there's a lot of things that you need to carefully look at. You see your local parks fall. Your local parks fall under the whole local government remit. Is this one of Andrew vote buying for the upcoming election? I forgot to put this in my queue as well. I think it's rather. If it's not, I'll correct it tomorrow. Coming at the time to look up now. I see the Prime Minister. I don't know, not the Prime Minister. I meant to ask the question. I don't know if the Prime Minister is using RADA to buy vote in St. Thomas by the things they're doing in assisting farmers in St. Thomas whose crop were damaged after the rainfall. I'm not saying Prime Minister, I'm just asking if you're using RADA to buy vote, because we know you use the National Housing Trust to do it. Oh, yes, this is the one where you're not forget about it. The Prime Minister come into criminal commission, you know. The Prime Minister, people, is targeting Jamaicans at home. The Prime Minister is targeting your children. Oh, yes, they are. The Prime Minister has signaled that he will remove He has intention to remove from the Student Loan Bureau the need to have at least one guarantor. The need to have at least one guarantor to gain that fund for your education. Under normal circumstances, one could say that's a good move. It would probably put more young people on the ladder to gain access to the Student Loan Bureau without having to, if they're unable to get somebody to provide them a guarantor. But is the Prime Minister going after the minds of the young voters? Is this a pullout of the election bag? Because we see in the Gleaner cartoonist today, the Prime Minister is going around the country with a bag of goodies. Is this something? Is this something the Prime Minister is using to garner the support of our younger minds at the poll coming next month? Because you have to keep a close eye on this strategic cat of a Prime Minister that we have. Because everything Andrew Holness does, there's a strategy deployed to it. There is a strategy deployed to it. So what is Andrew Holness' intention with the whole Student Loan Bureau argument? Does he care about Jamaicans, young people, or people who want to access those sources to advance their education? Or is the Prime Minister just playing a simple mind game for his political gains? What else do I want to look at? No, starting a time for commission now. Is it time for commission? The criminal commissioner. The brewing war, because this is turning into a war now, between the, let me find criminal for you. The brewing war between the Police Federation, the brewing war between the Police Federation. These were some of the pictures. Oh, did I don't tell you about? Yes, these are some of the pictures from Resilience Park. It's called Resilience Park, but based on the wording of that mayor, that Old Harbor councillor, then we will use the Old Harbor councillor word, resilient, not resilient, Resilient Park. Right, I need to go to their old commish. Sorry about that, please. Where is commish? There they are. Now, the Police Federation wants the Commissioner of Police to be committed to prison. A criminal commissioner of police. A commissioner of police as the Federation of the Jamaica Federation of Police is arguing. A commissioner who is in contempt of court. So therefore, along with these two ladies from somewhere in the Ministry of Sleeping, they're also from the Ministry of Sleeping, but please read the article for yourself. It's in the description area. But basically, they have filed a lawsuit. The Police Federation have filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court. If you remember, I think was it last year, while Derek McCoy was the Attorney General before Holness and in Bangarang. The Jamaica Police Federation won a case for police to be paid for their overtime. The commissioner and those within the finance and so department, which are these two ladies, are in violation or in contempt of the court ruling by not carrying out the ruling of the court. So the Police Federation has taken a lawsuit to the court, asking the court to declare that Commish is in contempt of court. And Commish and these two ladies on the screen ought to be committed to prison. Let's see if a court is going to stand up for justice, because this is a ruling from the court, which the commissioner and his office, and no doubt people in the Office of Ministry of National Security, is in violation of, the Federation is saying. So therefore, we will await to see what the ruling is going to be, if the court is going to uphold the standard we expect them to. Because if you have already ruled that they should pay JCF members for their overtime, and they have violated that, and JCF Federation have taken a lawsuit to commit them to prison for the contempt of court, will the court rule in the Federation authority? And if the court ruled in the Federation authority, could we see our Commish being handcuffed and is committed to the penitentiary? This is a development that we will keep our eyes on. A commissioner who is in contravention of a court order. A commissioner of police who is in contravention of a court order. The next flick of Jamaica continues. I mean, it really continues when those who are tasked with the mantle for crime fighting cannot even respect a decision from the court in relation to agreed wages of the very own men and women who they send out on the street, under resource, underpay, lack of confidence, overtight burnout and washout uniform, sometimes no car or gas in the car for them go upon them duties. Sometimes them have to fan down a drive to go upon emergency duties. A police officer died the other day after going to the US for a liver transplant and have to come back home because there was no help from a ministry who, after Fitzbailey, demand his cut out of the money of proceeds of crime. One can take 15 million per month and give to SSL. But those very same police who you send in danger, day in, day out, They cannot survive on their pay. I wholly disagree with a lot of things our police do, but I totally do understand that the extortion behavior that our police use, Delroy Henry, good evening and welcome. The extortionate behavior of our police, Mystic Vibes, good evening and welcome. The extortionate behavior of our police, that we see how they extort motorists, how we see how they sell out cases, is a consequences of not being able to survive and what the Ministry of National Security and the government, not just under wholeness, but successful government in our country that has failed to give the police and our other public servants an adequate living wage. You have failed to resource, train, and develop our law enforcement officers. Holder, good evening and welcome. Izzy Holder, good evening. We have a Minister of National Security. A Minister of National Security who is involved, highly involved in illegal gun smuggling. We have a Minister of National Security which is illegally arming garrison constituencies across our country by the hundreds. That's the next flick we call our most beloved country, Jamaica. But if we continue to let the old boys club, if we continue to let the old boys club run our country down the hill, rape women, murder them, abduct our children, drugs and scamming and gun violence, most of those were instituted in our midst and in our country by the patriarchal, male-dominated society that was given to us by the West. But do we have to accept it? Or are we comfortable with it? Do we have a plan to change it? Or are we just going to go on with it? The freedom that we have, that successive generation fought for, are we going to fall flat on our face and leave another generation to a dire tyranny that is building up right in front of us? But at no time we see the need of standing against the tyranny of Andrew Holness and the JLP regime. This is where Global TV ends it tonight. As I'm finishing, my cousin has just joined the live. Good evening, Myrna Bryan. How are you doing? Welcome. You have just joined the live while I'm finishing, but please do go back and do a rewatch later on. To those on TikTok, on Twitch, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, thank you all for being here this evening. It is lovely to have you as always. I will try my best to be back with the At a Glance program tomorrow morning, but I will keep you informed of all development. Thank you very much, Sunshine and everyone. Thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and we will definitely be back tomorrow. Perfectly so, Delroy. Perfectly so. And that is why Jamaicans at home need to understand why we cannot stay silent in a lot of the things we see happening at home, because we know there's so much better that can happen in our country. The resources of our country can offer us so much better. We can be the Dubai of the Western world. I kid you not. The resources that we're sitting on, we could be the Dubai of the Western world. Good night from Global TV. Good night, TikTok, and thank you for joining us. We will all see you back here tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.